The Galactic Emperor's holographic visage flickered above the obsidian table, his voice a blade of tempered disdain. "Another human colony falls," he said, gesturing to the star map, where a crimson sigil pulsed over the frontier world of Epsilon 9. And yet their fleet still failed to muster even a token defense. Pathetic. Admiral Valax, his scaled knuckles tightening around his datapad, resisted the urge to correct his sovereign. The humans had resisted, just not in the way the Empire expected. Their pitiful orbital drones had detonated in suicidal waves, buying time for evacuation ships to flee. A waste of material, yes, but not the act of cowards. Your radiance. Valax began, choosing his words like a surgeon selecting instruments. Their tactics suggest a deeper stratagem. They sacrifice territory but preserve personnel. This is not the behavior of a broken species. Across the table, Grand Marshal Kess sneered, her crest flaring violet with amusement. You give them too much credit. They cling to their dirt like insects, too primitive to grasp the stars. Their stratagem is panic. The other officers chuckled, their laughter echoing to the command spire's vaulted chamber. Valax's mandibles twitched. They hadn't seen the reports. He tapped his datapad, and the star map shifted, highlighting a jagged sector near the human border. "Then explain this," he said. 7 Imperial Patrol markers winked out in sequence. Each vessel vanished without debris, without distress calls. Gone, as if space itself had swallowed them. The laughter died. Kess leaned forward, her talons scraping the table. Pirates, or the Zordi rebels? Neither. Valax zoomed the display. The last transmission from the dagger, 7 mentioned a sensor anomaly, a shadow moving against a stellar wind. Then silence. He paused. The humans have something, and we do not know what it is. The Emperor's hologram flickered again, his irritation manifesting as static. Enough. If the humans possess a weapon, we will crush it beneath our heel. He turned to Valax. Take the Invictus and the 3rd battle group. Burn their hidden dens to cinders. 3 cycles later, Valax stood on the Invictus S-Bridge, watching the tactical display. The missing patrols had last been near NX 447, a dead system with a single gas giant, a perfect ambush site, if humans were capable of ambushes. Admiral, Hiss's sensor officer, energy spike at 030 by ecliptic, scale by the void. The display flared crimson. Something vast rippled into existence, its silhouette blotting out the stars. Valax's blood ran cold. The human vessel, no, abomination, was a leviathan of blackened alloy, its hull studded with weapon ports the size of Imperial corvettes. Cloaking fields shimmered off its flanks like heat haze. A supercarrier, and it had been waiting for them. All batteries. Valax's order died as the thing's prow split open, revealing a maw of coiled energy. Then space screamed. The Invictus shuddered as the energy wave from the human supercarrier slammed into its shields. Alarms wailed, consoles spat sparks, and for the first time in his decorated career, Admiral Valax felt the icy grip of doubt. Shields at 47%, the tactical officer barked. That was a warning shot. Their main battery is still charging. Valax's claws dug into his command chair. A warning shot from a ship that shouldn't exist. The vessel's designation flickered on the view screen. *** TDS Titan Forge. Its angular script mocking Imperial databases that listed human naval assets as * obsolete, negligible threat. * Return fire. Grand Marshal Kess snarled from the holo display, her image flickering as the Invictus S system strained. Blast that monstrosity into dust. Valax hesitated. The Titan Forge hadn't moved. It simply waited, its cavernous launch bays yawning open like a predator inviting prey to strike first. A trap. Hold batteries, he ordered. Hail them. Silence. Then static. Then a human voice, calm as deep space. Admiral Valax. You were warned to stay away. The bridge crew stiffened. The accent was crisp, hunting by the serval inflection of conquered species. This was no desperate colonist. This was command. Kess's hologram crackled with fury. You dare address your betters, human? Your pitiful rebellion ends today. A dry chuckle echoed through the comms. Asterisk rebellion? No, this is a correction. Asterisk. The Titan Forge S flanks erupted with light. Not missiles. Not drones. Asterisk, asterisk. A swarm of sleek, dagger-shaped craft streaked toward the Imperial fleet. Too fast, too fluid. They moved like living things, rolling between turret blasts with eerie precision. Evasive. Valax barked, but was too late. The lead craft spiraled past the Invictus S-point defense grid and latched onto a frigate's hull. A pulse of blue fire, then the frigate's engines died mid-burn. It listed powerless as the other drones crippled 3 more ships in seconds. They're not destroying us, Valax realized. They're disabling. Kessa's hologram flickered out as her flagship, the Dreadclaw, took a drone to its bridge. The Titan Forge loomed closer, its sheer bulk blotting out the stars. Then the transmission came again. Asterisk, you have one chance. Retreat. Asterisk. Valax's mandibles clenched. Retreat? The Empire did not retreat, yet his tactical display told a grim truth. 30% of his fleet was already dead in the water. The rest were sitting targets for that monster's main gun. Admiral. The sensor officer's voice was raw. New contacts, emerging from the gas giant's shadow. Valax's blood froze. More human ships. Dozens. Hundreds. Not warships. Freighters. Miners. Refitted civilian hulls, now bristling with jury-rigged railguns and missile pods. The Titan Forge wasn't alone. It was a spearhead of a fleet the Empire never saw coming. The human voice returned, softer now. Asterisk, you thought we were hiding in fear. We were waiting. Go home, Admiral, or die here. Asterisk, for the first time in Imperial history, a battle group turned tail and fled. The Emperor's throne room was silent, save for the crackle of the holographic battle report flickering above the obsidian floor. Valax knelt, his carapace still scorched from the Titan Forge S parting shot, his mandibles clenched against the weight of failure. Around him, the High Command stood frozen, their crests flushed with shock. Then the Emperor moved, a single step forward, his talons clicking against the stone. The air thickened with the scent of ozone, his rage made manifest. You ran. The words were a whisper, yet they echoed like a starship's hull fracturing in vacuum. Valax kept his gaze lowered. Radiance, they outmaneuvered us. Their technology. Their technology? The Emperor's voice lashed like a plasma whip. You let vermin humiliate the Imperial Armada. His fist slammed onto the throne's armrest, the impact shuddering through the chamber. This is not a defeat. It is heresy. Across the room, Grand Marshal Kess, her holographic form still glitching from the Dreadclaw's wreckage, bared her fangs. We must burn their worlds. All of them. The Emperor's eyes, black as collapsed stars, locked onto Valax. You will lead the 2nd and 3rd fleets to Sol. You will find this Titan Forge, and you will reduce it to atoms. Valax hesitated. And if they have more surprises? The Emperor leaned down, his breath hot with the scent of venom. Then you will die correctly this time. 3 cycles later, the Imperial Armada emerged from warp at the edge of the Sol system. A swarm of dagger-shaped dreadnoughts and artillery ships, their hulls polished to a vengeful gleam. Valax stood on the bridge of the new flagship, Imperator's will, his claws tight around the tactical display. Scans, he demanded. The sensor officer hissed. No sign of the Titan Forge. But the display flickered, highlighting anomalies near Mars. Their orbital defenses are active, too precise. A cold certainty settled in Valax's thorax. This was another trap. Kessa's hologram flickered to life. Her image restored, but her voice still ragged from her near death. They're hiding, cowards to the last. Valax ignored her. Full sensor sweep. I want. The Imperators will lurch as space ripped open ahead of them. Not 1, not 10, 20 warp signatures. And at their center, the Titan Forge, its hull scarred but its weapons glowing with fresh charge. The human voice from before crackled across the comms. Asterisk, Admiral, you were warned. Asterisk, Then space burned. The Imperial fleet returned fire, their plasma lances carving through the void. But the human ships danced. Freighters transformed into battering rams, slamming into destroyers. Mining vessels spat electromagnetic pulses, frying targeting systems. And at the heart of the storm, the Titan Forge unleashed its final secret. A pulse of golden light erupted from its core, washing over the battlefield. Where it touched, Imperial systems stuttered. Shields collapsed. Engines died. Valax's display flashed crimson. Gravity weapon. All ships fall be. The Imperators will artificial gravity failed. Valax floated weightless. As the Titan Forge loomed closer, its prow now a blade aimed at his bridge. The human voice returned. Quieter this time. Almost regretful. Asterisk, you should have listened. Asterisk, the supercarrier rammed. Epilogue, the Emperor's silence. The High Command waited. The Emperor had not moved since the last transmission from Seoul. A single, scrambled image of the Imperators were breaking apart, its hull shattered by human hands. Finally he spoke. Recall all fleets. Secure our borders. Kess snarled. We cannot let this stand. The Emperor's claws flexed. No, we cannot. His gaze lifted to the star map, where Seoul now pulsed like an infected wound. But we will not charge blindly into the dark again. He turned, his robes hissing against the floor. The humans have shown their fangs. Now we learn where they came from. And in the shadows of the throne room, unseen by all, a single datapad flickered with a stolen Imperial file. Project Titan Forge. Asterisk status. Phase 1 complete. The Emperor stood alone in the vaulted silence of the Imperial archives, his talons tracing the edges of a forbidden data slate. The holographic projection before him displayed a star map older than the Empire itself, a relic from the first expansion, when humanity had been nothing more than a footnote in the galactic census. Yet here, buried beneath layers of erased records, was the truth. Project Titan Forge. Not a warship, not a weapon, a template. The doors hissed open behind him. Grand Marshal Kess entered, her crest dulled by exhaustion, her once proud stance now hunched with the weight of defeat. The last of the Third Fleet has returned, she said, her voice stripped of its usual venom. The humans have fortified Seoul. They're waiting. The Emperor did not turn. They have always been waiting. He activated the slate. A schematic unfolded. Blueprints of the Titan Forge. But not as it was now. As it had begun. A skeletal framework. Its design unmistakably imperial. Kess stiffened. That's ours. The Emperor's voice was a blade of ice. A prototype from the old wars. Lost. Stolen. Silence pooled between them. The implications were monstrous. Humanity hadn't built their supercarrier. They had rebuilt it, improved it, and if they had won, Kess's breath hissed through her teeth. How many more? The Emperor's claws tightened around the slate. Summon the Shadow Inquisitors. Activate the Obsidian Protocol. Kess recoiled. Obsidian Protocol hadn't been invoked in millennia. Not since the purge of the Zorati. You can't mean to... I mean to end this. The Emperor's eyes burned with cold fire. If humanity has turned our own weapons against us, then we will remind them why those weapons were forbidden. Aboard the TDS Titan Forge, Admiral Elias Carter stared at the tactical display, the ghost of Seoul's battle still flickering across its surface. They'd won. Against all odds, against the might of the Empire, they'd won. So why did it feel like the war was just beginning? Signal from the outer pickets. Calm Officer Hale said, her voice tight. Long-range scouts report Imperial movements near the Kelmar Rift. They're not retreating. Carter's jaw clenched. The rift was a graveyard of dead stars and unstable wormholes, a place fleets want to disappear. What are they doing? Hale's fingers danced across her console. Then she froze. Admiral, they're mining something. The display updated. Spectral scans revealed massive Imperial dredges hauling something from the rift's depths, an angular shadow, its outlines blurred by gravitational distortion. Carter's blood turned to ice. It was another Titan Forge, or what remained of one. The void between galaxies. The thing in the dark stirred. It had slept for eons, its hull fractured, its systems dormant. But now, distant echoes of familiar signals pulsed through the abyss. Imperial signals, human signals, and the war cry of its long-dead creators. Deep within its shattered core, a single light flickered to life. Awakening protocol engaged. The mining operation near the Kelmar Rift was not going as planned. Admiral Valax watched from a bridge of the Imperator's shadow, his mandibles twitching as another dread ship vanished from the tactical display. No explosion. No distress call. One moment it was there, hauling a jagged section of the derelict supercarrier's hull from the cosmic depths. The next, it was simply gone. "Report," he snapped. The sensor officer's claws trembled over the console. No debris, no energy surge. It's as if a shudder rippled through the Shadow S deck. The view screen flickered, then resolved into chaos. The derelict, their asterisk derelict, the ancient twin of humanity's stolen Titan Forge, was no longer lifeless. Lights pulsed along its ruptured spine. Valax's blood ran cold. All ships fall back. Now! Too late. The derelict's ruptured hull flexed, like a beast stirring from slumber. Then, with a scream of shearing metal, it moved. Not with engines, but as if space itself bent to drag it forward. A transmission sliced through the panic on the bridge, raw and distorted. A voice that was neither human nor imperial. Identity confirmed. Targets acquired. Then the slaughter began. Aboard the TDS Titan Forge, Admiral Carter's coffee cup shattered on the deck. The alert blaring through the ship's speakers wasn't a drill. It wasn't an imperial attack. It was something far worse. "They found another one," Hale whispered, her face pale in the tactical hologram's glow. "But it's not like ours. It's alive," Carter finished. The scans from Kelmar were impossible. The derelict wasn't just operational. It was hunting. Imperial ships died first, torn apart by weapons their own databases didn't recognize. Then the thing turned toward the inner systems. Toward Sol. Carter's fist clenched. "Get me the science team. Now." Dr. Lean-Jo arrived, still clutching a data slate. Her usually immaculate lab coat, smudged with coolant. "You've seen the feeds?" "Enlighten me," Carter growled. Joe swallowed. "We always knew the original Forge wasn't human, but we assumed it was Imperial." She tapped the slate. "It's not. It's older. And whatever's waking up out there, it thinks we're all the enemy." A chill settled over the bridge. Carter turned to the view screen, where the live feed from Kelmar showed the derelict carving through the last Imperial defenders. "Then we have one play," he said softly. "The Empire wants us dead. That thing wants everyone dead." He straightened. Hail the Imperator's shadow. The Emperor's sanctum. The hologram of Valax's battered face flickered before the throne. "Radiance. The artifact is consuming our fleet. It ignores all hails, all codes." The Emperor rose, his crest flaring crimson. "You will not retreat." A new voice cut through the transmission. Human, strained. "Asterisk, Your Majesty. You might want to reconsider." Asterisk. The Emperor froze. Admiral Carter's face now shared the feed, his expression grim. Asterisk. "That's not your weapon. And it's not ours. It's the reason both our ancestors buried the damn things." Asterisk. Silence. Then, from the depths of the Imperial flagship sensors, a final transmission from the derelict. Not words, but a signal. A countdown. Joe's voice crackled over Carter's comm. "Admiral, it's not just waking up, it's calling something." The view screen split. The derelict's core pulsed once, twice. Then the Kelmar Rift asterisk tore open.